And here are some of the steel slats that the president's been talking about right here. As you can see, yes, you can see through these slats to the other side of the U.S.-Mexico border. But as we're walking along here, we're not seeing any kind of imminent danger. There are no migrants trying to rush toward this fence here in the McAllen, Texas area. As a matter of fact, there are some other businesses behind me along this highway. There's a gas station, Burger King, and so on. But no sign of the national emergency that the president has been talking about. As a matter of fact, it's pretty tranquil down here.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got to follow up on the hilarious story involving CNN and Jim Acosta. Jim Acosta has decided that he is leaving CNN because CNN tried to move him to the graveyard shift. Now, why did they try to move Jim Acosta to the graveyard shift? Well, the reason why they tried to move Jim Acosta to the graveyard shift is because his Trump derangement is out of control. Okay, CNN's boss, CEO, said, hey, you guys should control your emotions during this inauguration, okay? Don't be going on Trump deranged meltdowns and boo-hoo-whining and crying over everything that Trump does or says during the inauguration. Because first and foremost, it is not a good look for so-called journalists to be boo-hoo-whining and crying during the president's inauguration, okay? Also on top of that, Trump derangement has not been good for the ratings of these outlets like CNN and MSNBC. Okay, nobody is watching these networks anymore. So the CEO is trying to make some subtle changes. However, Jim Acosta apparently did not get the memo. Okay, he had multiple Trump deranged meltdowns during the inauguration, okay, around Inauguration Day. And that was the final nail in his coffin, right? His career that basically is dead. Okay, and the CEO of CNN said, okay, you're going to the graveyard shift. Jim Acosta said, no, I'm not going to do it. Okay, I'm going to quit instead. And he decided to dedicate his last segment on air to more Trump derangement. Take a look.
Just wanted to end today's show by thanking all of the wonderful people who work behind the scenes at this network. You may have seen some reports about me and the show. And after giving all of this some careful consideration and weighing an alternative time slot CNN offered me, I've decided to move on. I am grateful to CNN for the nearly 18 years I've spent here doing the news. People often ask me if the highlight of my career at CNN was at the White House covering Donald Trump. Actually, no. That moment came here when I covered former President Barack Obama's trip to Cuba in 2016 and had the chance to question the dictator there, Raul Castro, about the island's political prisoners. As the son of a Cuban refugee, I took home this lesson. It is never a good time to bow down to a tyrant. I've always believed it's the job of the press to hold power to account. I've always tried to do that here at CNN, and I plan on doing all of that in the future. One final message. Don't give in to the lies. Don't give in to the fear. Hold on to the truth and to hope. Even if you have to get out your phone, record that message. I will not give in to the lies. I will not give in to the fear. Post it on your social media so people can hear from you too. I'll have more to say about my plans in the coming days, but until then, I want to thank all of you for tuning in. It has been an honor to be welcomed into your home for all these years. That's the news. Reporting from Washington, I'm Jim Acosta.
Hey guys, it's Jim. And let me just say this, I've had quite the day. But as you could see earlier today, this was my last day at CNN. And I did want to jump on Substack Live here for a moment and say, welcome to my new venture. I'm going independent, at least for now. This is just the beginning, but I wanted to invite you to join me here on this platform as we talk about the day's news, talk about politics and so on. And I do want to, and just in case you missed my closing message earlier in the day, don't give in to the lies. Don't give in to fear. Hold on to the truth and hope. And we'll keep this conversation going. Great to see all of you here. We'll talk some more soon.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Okay, now just because one of the biggest Trump deranged individuals on national television has left his job, that doesn't mean that the Trump derangement is going to stop. In fact, I think that is only just gotten started for what we're going to experience over the next 4 years, as you have the liberal media and Democrats now boohoo, whining, and crying over a bombshell executive order from President Trump and a directive from the Office of Budget Management, basically freezing all unnecessary federal aid and spending that is not directly related to Social Security, Medicare, and other direct payments to individuals.
President Trump signing another flurry of executive orders reshaping the federal government, including a pause in all federal aid spending. Today, New York's Tracy Strahan's in the newsroom now with reaction and potential impact. Tracy.
Well, Darlene, things like disaster relief aid, education, and transportation funding are all on the table. The Senate's top Democrat says President Trump's move to suspend these federal payments blatantly disobeys the law. In an internal White House memo obtained by NBC News from a source, the White House Office of Management and Budget announced that all federal agencies would be forced to suspend financial assistance payments, with the exception of Social Security and Medicare. Now, that same memo says this is a pause that would be temporary and would allow the Trump administration time to determine the best uses of funding that's consistent with the president's priorities. The order already sparking backlash on Capitol Hill, as it has the potential to impact domestic infrastructure projects, climate initiatives, and DEI funding as well, things that are given by both state and local governments. Now, in announcing the freeze in a memo, the acting director of the Office of Management and Budget said in part, quote, "The use of federal resources to advance Marxist equity, transgenderism, and Green New Deal social engineering policies is a waste of taxpayer dollars."
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Now, we're going to get into the reason why this order was done, why the Trump administration is doing this, is because they're actually really trying to cut spending. They're trying to do what Trump promised to do, which is to downsize the federal government. And in order to downsize the federal government, you have to put a pause on unnecessary spending that was not directly mandated by Congress. You know, the slush funds, right? The slush money that, gets tossed around Washington, D.C. Yeah, you got to put a pause on it, right? You got to put a pause on it and evaluate what the hell is going on, where is the money going, and then figure out what we should and should not keep. Okay, so again, this is the president doing exactly what he campaigned on. And of course, you have these Democrats out here now, boohoo, whining and crying, talking about Trump is trying to take away people's Social Security and Medicare. Again, things that are completely and totally false, bogus.
We are not okay with you destroying everything. And when I say everything, it's not just going to be black folk. It's not just going to be brown folk. It's going to be rural white folk as well. So if y'all don't come together and understand we need to organize for the midterms right now, or at least yesterday, then we are going to continue to go down this road. So right now, all I can tell you is that we don't have the numbers. Right now, I know everybody is panicking. I know everyone is upset, and I completely understand. All I can tell you is that hopefully we will have some judges, whether they are Democrats or Republican appointees, that will follow the law. This is very simple. What he is doing is lawless. He is lawless, and y'all decided that y'all wanted a thug in chief, and that's exactly what we got. We got somebody that showed y'all he don't have no respect for the law. He will continue to violate the law. He is violating the law. We will see if judges will continue to enable him to violate the law. I am sorry, y'all. Stop letting them divide you over things like trans folk, because guess what? Everybody that got upset about the trans folk, listen, that's now impacting whether or not you have food, or everybody that was convinced that the immigrants were taking the black jobs, so to speak. But now we got people that aren't showing up to the farms, and now we have record prices when it comes to eggs. And now he wants to say, you know what, CDC, you're not allowed to send out information about things such as COVID-19, or FDA, you're not allowed to warn of the things that are going on in our food supply. Literally, people will die if we don't come together.
I want to put up some of your statement on Trump's recent moves. And this is what you said: freezing federal grants and loans that Congress approved, firing IGs without cause or legally required congressional notice, and implementing Schedule F is Project 2025. It is executive branch overreach, and it is unconstitutional. So I've heard this word over and over again today on Capitol Hill: overreach, unconstitutional, also illegal, a lot from many of your Democratic colleagues. But I think there are many people watching at home who have, they don't want the legalese answer or the political answer. They want to know, what can you do about it? If you think this is unconstitutional, what power do you have as a member of Congress to stop this?
Well, we can enter into litigation. We can mobilize the public. We can use the bully pulpit. we're in a reactive mode. We're in the minority. The American people decided to give a trifecta to the Republican Party, and this is the consequence of that. But that doesn't mean we're powerless, and it doesn't mean we're moribund or supine, and we're not going to be. We're going to be very outspoken. We're going to look at situations like this where they have overreached, and we're going to strike back.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Okay, Democrats are boo-hoo, whine, and cried because they're powerless to stop Trump. So they're begging the judges, they're begging the courts, in which they are outnumbered in the courts as well too, but they're begging the courts to step up and stop this freeze. And a woke judge did answer the call for Democrats by stepping in and at least temporarily blocking this order from President Trump in the budget office.
The judge has just delayed implementation of the Trump executive order that was freezing all government funding. It had originally been set to go into full effect right now, 5 p.m. Eastern. Joining us right now to tell us about this delay is MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin. So tell us what the judge has decided and what that means, importantly, for people who are trying to access Medicaid portals or services.
Well, Nicole, let me first share with you what the judge decided, and then we can talk about what it means, because it's a little unclear what it might mean, and hopefully in the coming hours and days, we'll get a little bit more clarity about it. Judge Lauren Ali Khan of the D.C. District Court was ruling on an application made by a bunch of coalitions of nonprofits. And what she decided today was she doesn't have enough information, essentially, to enter a preliminary injunction or a temporary restraining order. The government's lawyer said none of these plaintiffs can tell you that they will be irreparably harmed. They can't point to which government programs, for example, they're dependent on, and how the cutting off of aid would prevent them from paying out their staffs or paying their rent at the end of the month. She said, given all of the allegations that have been made, given that they represent tens of thousands of nonprofits and other businesses dependent on aid, she'll enter what's called an administrative stay. That means until next Monday at 5 p.m., the OMB memo has been frozen, with one key exception. And here we get into what does this all mean? The freeze is only as to what is considered an open award, meaning if there is an existing distribution of funds from a given government program, that can't be touched. On the other hand, if an award hasn't yet been made from a particular grant program, then the Trump White House can put that OMB memo into effect and ask various agencies to report back to it in the way that they have in that original memo. So I still think there's some lack of clarity on what this means. But if you're a grant recipient, for example, in a state, you're a partner with a state that gets federal family planning grants, for example, and you're looking to get that check tomorrow, you're still going to get that check, assuming that you're an existing subgrantee, for example.
And it's the state of New York which is leading this matter. What we are seeking, obviously, is a temporary restraining order and then a preliminary injunction against this illegal act. It is ultra-virus. It exceeds the authority of the President of the United States. It's in violation of the spending clause. So the United States Congress has control of the purse. And so this President of the United States cannot disrespect the co-equal branch of government with the stroke of a pen. And it's important that individuals understand that a number of states, their portals were frozen today. Here in the state of New York, our portal, our Medicaid portal, was closed off. There was a state in Arizona, Attorney General Mays indicated that, in fact, just last night, she had seized over 500,000 pounds of methamphetamines, and that drug program, that interdiction program, that could have been affected. Law enforcement grants, food for seniors, Meals on Wheels, Head Start, aid to farmers, aid to pregnant women, aid to children. The list goes on and on and on. It is unprecedented, unparalleled, but basically illegal, unconstitutional, reckless, and dangerous.
And, you know, it seems that that Donald Trump is testing federalism itself in attempt.
Yeah. So you see now, you heard that. Okay. So what you have here is President Trump essentially trying to clean up the slush fund of spending that happens every year, right? That is what he's doing. He's trying to take control of it. And the bureaucrats upset, right? The nonprofits are upset. Again, all of these institutions run mainly by liberals, right? They're upset that the money might stop flowing, okay? And you have all types of accusations that, oh, Trump is trying to take away Medicaid. He's trying to take away Social Security, Medicare. He's trying to stop the American people from receiving aid, right? This is what the liberal media and Democrats are trying to put out there. However, again, that's not the case. What Trump is trying to do is that, again, he's trying to clean up the budget. I mean, this is definitely a part of Doge, okay? That's what's happening here. We have to clean up this excessive spending. So Stephen Miller is going to school Jake Tapper on exactly what's happening, as Jake Tapper, of course, is skeptical of Stephen Miller because, again, they never give the Trump White House the benefit of the doubt, the same benefit of the doubt they gave the Biden White House. So without further ado, let's go ahead and watch this.
And we're back with our politics leading growing questions and confusion about President Trump's move to pause federal grants and loans. Today, the White House is trying to reassure Americans that this order, which goes into effect at 5 p.m., about 33 minutes from now, is not as sweeping as it first appeared. But a group of nonprofits are already suing the Trump administration over the move. Joining us now to hopefully provide some clarity is Stephen Miller, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and a Homeland Security Advisor for President Trump. Stephen, good to see you again. Thanks for joining. So,
hey, my friend, good to see you.
A White House memo just issued this afternoon says that the pause does not affect Medicaid. It already had clarified that it didn't affect Social Security or Medicare. But the Medicaid website portal is experiencing an outage, and the White House press secretary this afternoon was not able to say whether Medicaid would be affected or not. So let's just walk through this because obviously there's confusion. Is this pause going to affect Medicaid?
It does not affect any service that the government is required to provide. It does not affect any entitlement. It does not affect any service to citizens. It does not affect any individual benefit, any public assistance program, or anything of that nature.
Okay. So that's
very glad for the chance to explain what's going on here. In fact, I could actually give you some backstory I think you'd find very useful, Jake. So we found after the president had issued a pause on funding to NGOs that resettle illegal immigrants, we found that bureaucrats at HHS were trying to funnel billions more dollars to those resettlement agencies and try to get around the executive order. It became clear that bureaucrats were still trying to funnel unapproved discretionary grants of funds to their pet projects. So OMB, led by Russ Vought, felt it was necessary to protect taxpayer resources to issue clearer guidance establishing for these discretionary grants of funding that are not directed by Congress, that they go through a political approval process at the agency.
So let's get into that because a number of government-funded organizations, so these are organizations like Meals on Wheels, right? Their job, their mission, it's a private organization. They get grants from the federal government. They feed seniors. Meals on Wheels is currently in the dark. They don't know, does this order affect us? Does this mean we're not going to have any more funding coming in? They feed like 2 million seniors. So I'm just wondering, first of all, why a pause? An investigation, sure, I get that. Auditing, sure. Why a pause? And what about?
Well, Jake, once you spend money, you can't get it back. So, in other words, if you don't put federal programs under review that are wasteful or harmful to taxpayers, and then people hit send, you wouldn't believe the payments we've had to pause over the last few days with bureaucrats trying to funnel money out of the door, funnel money to the World Health Organization, funnel money to resettlement organizations, funnel money to foreign countries. And so, of course, you have to put a pause on these discretionary grants of funding and have a political review process. In other words, there are people that are accountable to the taxpayer to review. It does not include, the review process does not include any public benefit program. So you mentioned Meals on Wheels. That is a public benefit program. OMB has been clear about this. Jake, we have to get control over this government. You know, I'll just stay on this point about NGOs, non-governmental organizations. Mm-hmm. Joe Biden gave just one NGO responsible for resettling illegal aliens $3 billion, with a B, $3 billion. President Trump, when he said drain the swamp, he meant it. And yes, so those kinds of spending programs are going to be put under review.
Okay, I don't think anybody's taking issue with if you find money that is being dispersed in an inappropriate way, halting it. I think what the confusion is this seemed to a lot of groups and a lot of states, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, like a very sweeping order, and there is confusion. I just want to make sure I understand. So anybody out there that provides school lunches. Anybody out there?
Yeah, there's zero impact on public benefit programs, full stop, as OMB has made clear. And I want to really drill down on this, Jake, because it's so important. There's 2 million employees in the federal government. Overwhelmingly, the career federal service in this country is far left wing. I don't know that to be a fact.
Well,
I'll give you a great example. We looked at USAID as an example.
That's
98% of the workforce either donated to Kamala Harris or another left-wing candidate, just as an example.
Okay, but let me just an entire workforce is having a
whoa. Did you just say that saying someone voted for Kamala Harris is demonizing them?
No.
So according
your suggestion is that there's a bias.
No.
Your suggestion.
Well, I mean, there is a bias, right? I mean, just like there's a bias going on right now. Instead of just shutting up and listening to Stephen Miller, who, by all accounts, he's kind of running things under Trump. He's explaining to you exactly what's going on, right? It's very simple. There's funny money. There's a slush fund of discretionary spending that is being going around that really, again, Congress, they don't keep track of it, right? They just throw $500 million at some nonprofit or whatever, okay, some entity, and they funnel the money. They do all types of stuff with it, right? They just slush it around, okay? Now, you have slush money being moved around in order to try to get around Trump's executive orders. That's what's happening, okay? AKA the blob, the bureaucrats are essentially trying to undermine Trump. And that's why I try to tell you guys about his first administration. The one thing President Trump has learned is that these bureaucrats, like the deep state is real, okay? And they will try their best to maintain power and control. Because they feel like they're the ones that should be running the government. See, this is what they're talking about when they're talking about the people we elect aren't actually running the government, right? So what you have happening here is that the Trump administration, they're essentially trying to weed those people out, first and foremost, and to also get a hold of that slush fund spending that is happening between these bureaucrats to undermine President Trump.
Use the word demonizing. You just said that I'm demonizing somebody by saying they voted for Kamala Harris.
Let's get back on track.
But I am on track.
Okay.
Let me stay on track. What I'm saying to you is this. There are 2 million employees in the federal government.
Right.
They're overwhelmingly left of center.
Again,
the American people, I got to finish the sentence.
Okay.
I got to finish the sentence. The American people voted for dramatic change implemented by Donald Trump. So it is essential for him to get control of government, to establish a whole of government process for Donald Trump's political appointees to review discretionary grants of spending for pet projects that are not directed by Congress. In other words, these are pots of money where Congress hasn't said how to spend it or where to spend it. This might be something like saying, I want to build a $500 million fountain in the courtyard of the Department of Commerce. This might be something like saying, I want to fund gender studies in Afghanistan. There has to be political control and review. I can't help it if left-wing media outlets published a fake news story that caused confusion. If you read the OMB guidance memo, it is, well, if you read the OMB guidance memo,
well, I don't know what
it's as clear as day.
This one right here is CNN. That's what he's talking about. Jake Tapper's so triggered, bro. Look at his face. He's so triggered right now. This is hilarious.
Just talked to Congressman Don Bacon, a Republican, a Trump supporter. We just interviewed him. He said that there was a lot of confusion. He said that the executive order
created by the media, Jake. The OMB guidance memo, if you read it, is as clear as day.
It's pretty
my point is,
and confusingly written. Parts of it are about DEI, parts of it are all disbursement. It is.
Yeah, DEI suspended. That is correct.
Right. No, I'm just saying, like, it's kind of all over the map, and there is confusion, and it's not just liberal media.
Jake, tell me.
Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski said.
You're not understanding what I'm saying.
But
I'm saying that
I want you to address this.
I will, but I'm saying that a false story was put out that people responded to. It's unfortunate that people put out a false story. That's all I'm saying, Jake.
Okay.
That's all
Republican Senator.
Yeah. So you see that, you heard that. Yo, this is hilarious. These people in the media, they just never learn. They never learn. Again, when has Jake Tapper ever been that combative with the Biden administration? Now, again, the Biden administration, the least transparent administration in history. Jake Tapper has never tried to dig that deeply into something that the Biden administration has done. He's never tried to do that, right? But only when it comes to Trump, they got to know every detail, right? They got to know every detail every nook, every cranny. Okay, they gotta know everything. Or else, we're so confused. We're so confused, right? So, it's just hilarious to watch these people continue to do what they've been doing for the last 8 years. It hasn't worked. The American people voted for this. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the people who are going to be affected by this, again, it's the bureaucrats, right? The bureaucrats, the liberal nonprofits, the entities that are dependent on the government to fund their unnecessary pet projects. Yes, those are the entities that are concerned, right, about whether or not they're going to continue to get paid. But, again, you have to basically freeze the system in order to figure out what's going on and to get control of what's happening, okay? Because, again, these people, they are known for trying to undermine the president, okay? And you have to nip that in the bud, right? Trump already knew coming into office, okay, how these people operate. This is how we're going to counter that. And that's what you're seeing going on right now. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.